Hello, my name is Belle, and I'm here to talk about hair and share how I go about drawing it. How I'm going to go about it is through 1. Understand how hair works by breaking it down using a reference. For this one, a drawn reference. Then from that breakdown, build up or draw the hair from what we understood instead of what we just see. Let's start. Number 1. Breaking down. Why are we breaking down a reference? Knowing how to use your reference to understand is a step up from just looking at a reference. Also, if you are being in possession of a head of hair, you can use said head as a reference point for understanding as well. So, here are the points to understand. Roots. Whatever the head shape you decide on or whatever you are looking at, humanoid or not, figuring out the sections where the hair takes root is important. For a humanoid head, the usual areas for hair to grow are the sides, the top, the back, the front, this in relation to the hairline as bangs. After defining the roots, we figure out how it grows. This is where we break down the hair itself. When looking at a reference, whatever reference it might be, breaking it down from large chunks to small details is very helpful. So with our reference, let's start with the biggest chunk, the overall form. From this, we get to understand the following things: structure or the type of hair, general direction or the flow, and then the volume of the hair. For structure or hair type, is it straight, wavy, curly, or coils? For our reference, definitely wavy, tight sort of wavy. For general direction or flow, these are affected by gravity, external forces, or just plain movement of the character. For our reference, the main force is gravity, given that even with all its waves, it's all going down. For volume, is it thick from top to bottom? Is it on the thinner side? Where does the volume focus? For our reference, the thickness of its volume is focused around the middle to bottom. Also, there's a bounciness to it. Next stage, layers and sections. For this stage, what we're looking to understand is how the aspects of the overall form is supported and made more interesting. Now, how many division of layers or sections you make depends on your preference and how much variety you wish to isolate. There are many ways to go about dividing the layers and sections. Feel free to explore for what works for you. For our reference, let's go 3 layers, top, mid, and bottom. Now, during this stage, what is expanded on? Volume. With how the layers are divided, you see that how I understood it is, for the left side, the bottom layer pushes the mid layer in a way that shows more volume, and it pushes the top layer higher. On the right side, how I understood it is a matter of the middle and bottom layers peeking out from the top layer. Now that we've defined the layers, let's go for sections. Some notes. With drawn and stylized references, you can definitely determine the sections using how the line art was drawn or how the shadows or light were rendered. On more realistic or real-life references, you can determine the sections based on the variety on the hair and the changes on it in addition to how shadow or light behaved. For our reference, we're following the line art for the sections. What is expanded on during this stage? Flow and direction, structure. Similar to the overall form's flow, the flow of sections are affected by the same factors: just on a smaller scale. Earlier, we established that the overall form's flow is downward because of gravity. During this stage, we see that the downward flow isn't as straightforward because of the hair structure and its behavior. We see during this stage how wavy the hair is and how tight the waves are. Also, we see through the sections how much the shoulders disrupt the flow. It's not just plain down. The left side is spilling to the front and the right side is spilling to the back. How it is sectioned is often where you see if there are very specific ones isolated due to some external factor. For example, a more elaborate hairstyle, like braids or half up and half down, some other hairstyles, and another factor like blowing wind. Finally, the small details. This is what I consider as the spice to a lovely meal, because too much of it without proper execution could break the piece. On our reference, it would be the stray strands that break the silhouette and other extra strands. And with this, we're done with the breaking down. Now we're gonna talk about building up. We're gonna take what we learned from the breaking down and then use it to execute and draw hair with Clip Studio. In this section, I will share what tools I use and why I prefer them. I will also talk about what my brain goes through during drawing. This is mainly how I draw, so feel free to just take whatever works for you and run with it. If you find that by the end of this how doesn't work, that's fine. The goal is whatever makes things easier and whatever makes you happy with your art. So, stage 1, sketch. Some things I think about. 1, I am what I consider a very messy sketcher. 2, define and decide as much of a foundation as you can during the sketch stage. It doesn't have to be clean, but cover as much ground as possible even if it would be changed later. In the matter of hair, I go for the overall form and the layers and sections. For the overall form, the structure and hair type is straight and the volume is relatively consistent. For the layers and sections, there's a layer that is held by the hand on the side and everything else is going down. For the sections, I mainly focus on the section where it's held by the hand and tangled by the fingers. I also take note of the details that can be considered as extra strands or just small enough sections that need to be taken note of. Also during the sketch stage, I try to slap on rough colors and rough environment. The reason why is lighting and shadows. By the end of the sketch stage, what I have is pretty much a preview of the final piece. The brush I go for during the sketch stage is the transparent watercolor brush. As for why, it's smooth and fast, and it helps with the quick establishment of the overall form of the hair. Also, you can work on the flow and direction using it. The layering behavior of the brush is a plus as well. It helps define the sections more as you go for a smaller brush. For the line art stage, the things I think about are 1. If I've defined a good foundation during the sketch stage, the line art stage serves mainly as a cleanup. Doing the line art is picking the best line or path made during the sketch. Also, vector layers are a blessing. For tools during the line art stage, the main tool that I use is the mapping pen and vector layers. Again, as I said before, they are a blessing. The main advantages of doing line art on a vector layer are the correct line subtools and the vector eraser. You can draw a long line in one go, and if it's off by a bit, you can use the pinch vector line to move sections or curves. You can draw one long line in multiple sections and then use the connect vector line to make them one. Line thickness, use the correct line width to narrow it down or thicken it up. This is helpful for someone that always starts with thick line art, me, because my vision is far from 2020. Also, need to erase an intersection, use the vector eraser. These are just some of the vector layer features that I use. There are more that you could use them for, I am sure of it. Last stage, flat colors and rendering. Things I think about, lighting and shadow. its behavior and strength. On defining hair strands, if it's dark hair color, use light to define the strands, and if it's light hair color, you can use shadows. Another thing to consider is color choice. Also, for lighting, the layer blending mode I usually use is glow dodge or add glow. For shadows, the layer blending mode, multiply or color burn. For the tools I use during this stage, to lay down the colors, from Clip Studio Assets, Close and Fill tool without gaps, Content ID on the screen, Lasso Fill, then for soft shadows, Soft Airbrush, for hard shadows, Lasso Fill again. Then for the final stuff, Mapping Pen for the small details and stray strands, and Gaussian Blur for drama. Some quick bonus stuff, elemental hair. What we understood during the breaking down is applicable as well when we draw not quite hair. Drawing elements as hair is a favorite of mine. What I mainly do is take the behavior of the element and combine it with how hair behaves. Then balance these behaviors to achieve pretty hair. Note, in terms of execution, you can go as simple or as detailed or rendered as you want. However, making sure that you understand what you are executing is vital so the final piece works. So that's all from me. Take whatever it is that works for you and then run with it. Again, the goal is to make things easier and whatever makes you happy with your art. Go forth and draw pretty hair and enjoy while doing it.